as we all know, the way we use the internet has been threatened thanks to the non-elected members in the FCC and their connections to corporations and other large financial powers. So, Daniel, let's just read this story. Let's address it. It's pretty difficult to really talk about because we use the internet for HardLensMedia. There's a lot of independent media outlets that use the internet to get the word out. So let's just hear it.
So we talked about this a while back with net neutrality. And so very recently the vote was taken. Net neutrality was repealed. However, even back then I was saying that it's probably going to happen this way. However, it looks like I said at that point that companies like Google will be suing. And it looks like isn't Google specifically, but a number of umbrella groups that represent various Google's other types of groups are suing. I think it's the Electric Frontier. But one thing that was interesting that's developed since then is that seems to be bipartisan support in Congress that even Republicans are like, why are we getting rid of net neutrality? This doesn't help. I mean, even it's only like one very small base, and it affects, it devastates many other bases that I'm sure they would get funding from. So in this case, when the FCC does this, I believe it's the Senate can vote to overturn it with just a simple majority, and if you just get you just got to have that called to hearing. I think the Democrats are forcing that to happen, and you don't need that many Republicans to agree. And it seems like a few Republicans agree that this was a terrible decision that did not need to happen. So it looks like there may actually be bipartisan legislation that stops the destruction of net neutrality, and if that doesn't happen, then it's still going to go to the courts. Okay. Either way. But as of right now, we have net neutrality is in the process of being undone, but it's still in the process. The process has not finished. So, a lot of people, 22 million comments were submitted to the FCC. A lot of them were fake, and dead people were, and it seems like all these fake comments just happen to be against net neutrality. I'm not sure exactly what that says or what that could possibly mean.
Are you telling me that the fine, honorable people in the FCC are just putting up dead, false comments out there saying to get rid of net neutrality?
Yeah, no, I've seen a few people be like, hey, my dead grandmother didn't vote 3 times to fight net neutrality. So...
It's dark.
Yeah.
Morbid.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, don't worry. The dead don't tell you when they didn't vote for something, so then you don't know what they did. Anyway, so this happened. This was 3-2. There was I was watching the live stream of it happened, and it felt like it should have been more climactic. Like they should have had like an orchestra play like tense music as Pi goes up to announce, but he was very like, and now we're going to call a vote. Okay, let's have the vote. And you're going to go, no, okay, it's passed. Thanks, guys.
Like some dance of the night.
And then drank from his giant cup.
He has Reese's mug, which, mind you, I would just love to break because the thing is, he had the audacity to come out with this 7-8 minute video stating, here's what's going to happen when we get rid of net neutrality. Nothing changes. Everything's going to be the same. He's trying so desperately to be that nerd. Trying to be cool, okay? He's trying to be cool, and it comes off as such a douchebag move because he's saying nothing's going to change, but what he doesn't tell you is how much it's going to cost.
It's not going to change if you have the money and we decide to block you.
Yeah.
But no, it was actually on an update on that. The guys that did the Harlem Shake, the music for it, are copyright suing him.
Oh, very good. I'm happy.
Yeah.
Anytime his life is going to be struggling against all the court cases and the senatorial challenges, I mean, good. He decided to start this fight. Well, then good. Let him deal with it.
He didn't decide to start this fight. Pi is just an employee. He's an employee for Verizon who's doing this so that the revolving door can happen. Verizon makes more money. He comes back and it's the same revolving door that 50% of congressmen now find themselves in, whereas 2 decades ago, only 3% became lobbyists.
Yeah, but now he's coming across as the most hated person in the United States. I mean, that's very hard to do. When you have independents, Democrats, Republican voters, and even elected officials state that this is a bad move to do, and you got them all agreeing that getting rid of net neutrality is a bad thing to do.
What was it, 83%?
83% of the United States population. Currently, there's 350 million people in this country. So you at home watching us on our live stream or listening to us on the radio, you do the math. 83% of 350 million Americans. That's a diverse background of people agreeing that we need to keep net neutrality.
I don't have the exact number in front of me, but for Republicans, I believe it was like 74%.
Oh, well,
are also in favor of keeping net neutrality.
Yeah, see, you got us all agreeing, and the one person who is the face of getting rid of net neutrality is Ajit Pai and his two supporters during that vote for the FCC. But I think what a lot of people want to know is what's going to happen now.
Well, that remains to be seen. So there's a few different paths. I guess I can go through each one. So one path is this happens. This is the way it does. Congress doesn't get it together. They don't do anything about it. The lawsuits happen. They don't succeed. Net neutrality ends, and companies like Verizon can begin to, we've seen in the past, like the example I always give with Comcast, where they were saying, hey, Netflix, I heard you like it when your streamers get to see their videos in HD. What if we adjusted that until you paid us? So that's happened before. So this is a situation where Verizon could say, I don't like your website. It's gone. Oh, what if some other carrier can provide it? But we know they have regional monopolies. So for a lot of people that have Verizon only, they just would never see your website ever. Or they say, hey, I see you have a lot of traffic. That's causing a lot of strain on our super outdated copper infrastructure where of 50 lines of copper cable, one is working. We're going to have to charge you a little bit more, a few $1,000s or whatever the price would be, so we can maintain your signal and be very good about it. When, of course, we could have just used fiber cable, and this would not have been a problem a decade ago, and we could be updated similar to how Asia is and have great internet. But we have already some of the slowest, most expensive internet on the planet, and so yeah, in a sense. TV bundle. How much is a TV bundle? If you want to get a nice TV bundle with your HBO, your ESPN packages, what $150, $200. So what if you want internet? Again, you could say, oh, you want to use Facebook, you want to use social media platforms. Well, that's another $10 a month. There's,
I think for each one too.
Yeah,
you would be charged individually for Netflix, even possibly Google searches. Each one, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat. I mean, these would all be additional costs. And what I think could happen, too, if this ends up being implemented, is that a lot of people are going to end up canceling their accounts. Yeah. And they're actually going to lose a lot of their business because a lot of people won't be able to afford all of those things.
Which is why there's such strong resistance from those companies and these lawsuits that are coming out right now. And I think, personally, that they're going to win those lawsuits if it comes to that.
If I was anyone in AT&T, Verizon, or Comcast, I would take a step back and say, wait a minute, did we do a dumb thing right now? Because they have to be talking about that right now. That thought has to cross their mind. Unless they're so greedy.
They're probably popping champagne as we speak.
Yeah, they probably are because they're soulless and have no heart.
They're going to lose a lot of business.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's the thing.
And
for them, what happens if this falls apart? Well, they still make a ton of money without doing anything.
And on top of that, I need everyone to kind of realize that if you take away the freedom of the internet, well, people are going to want to use the internet. People use Gmail, Yahoo, and there's so many other things that people use the internet for that there might be an underground internet service that might start up.
The deep web.
Yeah.
Or like we talked about, Elon Musk gets all those satellites up and just completely bypasses.
By the way, Elon Musk, listen, I don't want to rush you, but you might want to start double timing on that satellite system. I mean, look, no rush, buddy, and don't get angry. But we definitely need that satellite system like the day before yesterday, right now.
You have an invasion of satellites.
God, why'd you have to bring that up, Daniel? Why?
Okay, but
seriously, a large invasion of satellites, innovative satellites.
Innovative invasion.
Yes, a lot of satellites to give us free internet. Elon Musk, get on it right now.
Okay, but here, you can tell by my tone, I'm actually not that worried. Okay. I look at this pretty pragmatically. I say, okay, how powerful are the telecommunication giants, the Comcast, the Verizons, services like that? And then I say, how big are content providers, your Googles, your Apples. I think Apple on its own is larger than all those companies combined.
Right.
And just like whoever has the most money in an election wins the election 95% of the time, it's I see it as a very similar thing. If you have if they can field one legion of lawyers, the combination of Google, Apple, etc., maybe they can field 3 legions of lawyers, and that'll be enough. And I remember,
and look at the public support that Google or Apple.
Yeah, so
would get.
let's go with what we have. We have a huge amount of public support, bipartisan support, importantly, for net neutrality. That's one part that people have. You have Republicans saying, "Hey, we like net neutrality," when they don't agree on anything that Democrats agree with. Mm-hmm. And Democrats are pretty universal in saying, hey, we want this not to happen.
And you also got independents, too.
And you have your independents. But in Congress, you have Republicans that look like they would vote to undo this. And again, if it comes down to it, the lawsuit, they're going to put the lawsuit in. It's going to pause this thing being rolled out until the lawsuit's finished, which may take 3-4 years. By that point, we may have another president that undoes it through their FCC,
right? Because
of the length these court cases take at that level. So perhaps even this all happens and it gets pushed back because of a lawsuit, and then the next president has a chair that comes in and fixes it. So there's many different aspects. You can either have Congress correct this. You can have another president coming in while this is under litigation correcting this. You could have the companies themselves that are fighting this correct this. All of those, each one of those individual steps could stop this process. And what the Comcast and Verizons have to do is counter all those groups.
Right. Which
I don't think that they have the money or the strength to do.
And also there's another thing that we forgot to mention, but let's talk about states' rights for a second. Numerous states have stepped up saying that they are against this move that the FCC has done, and I'm proud to say that my home state, our home state of Illinois, is for net neutrality.
I think it's like 15 states are suing. Are suing. So right, that's right. So
right.
Then you have the states that are currently suing it right now.
Right.
And from the business side, the businesses have a very strong argument. They say your Amazons, your Amazons, your Googles,
your Apple,
your Alphabet, technically for Google, your Alphabets. Their argument's going to be, hey, we built their entire business model predicated on the notion that net neutrality was a thing, because they base their stuff on volume. Mm-hmm. And like Lauren said, if everyone has to pay $10 to get on Snapchat, another $10 to get on Facebook, I mean, look at New Zealand, how they do it. That's profits that are going to be lost. And if you have to deal with your shareholders, you are under a fiduciary responsibility to stop that from happening, because your entire business model is going to implode if it's based on volume, and you have to change that to be based on cost or a much smaller group of people. So I'm not that worried personally. I think this is going to work itself out even with this vote. I don't think the rules are going to go into effect. I very much hope that I'm not wrong in how I'm assessing this. Mm-hmm. But again, so then setting in the states, you have 4 different groups. 2 are suing. 1 is a Senate that can override this with a simple majority. And then just getting another FCC chair before this goes through to change it. I don't see how they can really get this through. This seems like that they took all this time to get net neutrality, and it's not going to do anything for them.
Right. Yeah, and even considering like the small businesses, universities, schools, just anyone that relies on any social media platform to promote their growing business, they would also be looking at lost profits as well. And a lot of people use, brand marketing and use these social media platforms to promote either new branches or to gain more viewers. So again, just to add, it would affect a lot of those growing businesses as well. Defeating the whole competitive market as right.
So Ajit Pai has basically everyone in this country against him. You got the large corporations, Apple, Google, etc. You got
the majority of the population.
You got majority of population that doesn't agree with anything on a lot of issues. You got 83% of the U.S. population against him. You got the Senate that's Senate Democrats, Senate Republicans, House Democrats, all agreeing that this is a bad move. Then you've got other individual, small, medium corporations, small businesses. You got the states themselves. I mean, wow, you really picked the fight with all these people.
And I also want to say,
universities and colleges too.
I think that more people will get involved. Like Wall Street will probably get involved at some point when they're like, hey, how much money will the economy lose if this goes into effect? Because the U.S., the e-commerce economy of the U.S. is one of the envies of the country. It's one of the strongest things that we have. And what, are you going to just do away with perhaps trillions of dollars in commerce because you as a internet provider want to make a few extra bucks on each individual?
Yeah, we can't let companies like Comcast, Verizon, AT&T...
Time Warner. Time Warner.
Yeah, creating this monopoly that's supposed to be a free market. Our tax dollars built this. We're the ones that are using, everyone uses the internet. It needs to remain a free market, plain and simple.
And I also want to mention, just because we want to remember, CNN is owned by Time Warner. MSN is owned by Comcast.
Right.
So, I have to say, MSN has actually done, compared to the other networks, a very decent job, and nowhere near as good as the online networks.
Right, like HardLensMedia.
Yeah, we've definitely covered net neutrality for longer than MSN has at this point.
Right.
But I've seen a few segments that they've done that were actually pretty nice. I'm not sure what replay value they got on the network, because if it's 5 minutes over 24 hours, then over a week, it doesn't. I'm not sure how big of a deal it is, but I've seen a few of their videos, and they're very good. I have to give it to them. But it's, for as big of a deal as this is, I don't hear those companies really talking about it.
And more importantly, I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. If this upsets you, register to vote. Help get people to register to vote. Reach out to your family and friends to register to vote, and then find out where your elected officials at the state level and federal level stand on this issue.
Call. Yeah. Flood those voicemails.
Yes. In fact, Lauren, you mentioned something about people calling the FCC about against net neutrality.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically what we have with guys, this is something they're already if you have a Democrat in Senate or in the House, call them. They're probably already on board. They would just they just need a push. They always need a push to do something. If you have a Republican, call them the same way. I think the Republicans are the best to call if you have one in your district right now and you can reach, because they seem to be on the fence, and a few of them have seemed to jump over the fence onto the side towards net neutrality. So the easiest way to take care of this, the fastest way to take care of this, would just be to have the Senate, the House, make this not happen.
Sorry, just give me a second. I'm trying to get the number pulled up here.
Yeah,
that way, if any of our viewers would like to jot it down.
Okay, great. So, but in a nutshell, this looks like it's a unity moment for the country. Everyone's against this change. Everyone's against Pi. I wonder if Reese's is going to contact him and say, hey, stop being next to our cup. It's bad branding for us. Yeah, I mean, this is as bad a situation as we're in right now that this vote happened. I'm just not convinced it's going to pan out. I think that Verizon has simply installed a guy into office and won't get a lot out of it. He did his part, but the country's rising up against him, and I'm not sure it matters that he did his part. And again, other ways. States go against him, they sue. Companies go against him, they sue. Congress undoes this. Again, major support from all the people. This seems temporary.
And real quick, too, I just wanted to relay to call your representatives for any of our viewers that would like the direct number. It's 202-759-7766.
Can you say that twice more?
This is for calling your Congress reps to protect net neutrality. The number is 202-759-7766. And I don't know if this is a direct correlation, but I just got a notice yesterday from Netflix that I think it's January 6th. Their price is going to be going up to $10.99. So maybe it's already started.
Yeah, well, I'm sure that all the companies, even if they're fighting against this, are going to take advantage of the instability in the market to increase the profit. But I mean, that's what do you expect? Even if they're, remember, they're not even again. Google's not fighting on our side. Netflix isn't fighting on our side. Their interests just happen to line up in the long term with the interests of the regular people. So even though they're going to be fighting this stuff like that, they mean like, oh, we're going to raise our prices on stuff because of they're not sure of the market. Yeah, doesn't surprise me at all. I'd be surprised if they didn't.
I know Netflix did release a statement the other day. Probably yesterday, that they are siding with their viewers, and that they are against what the FCC is doing. So it is kind of nice to see solidarity with some of these programs that could possibly be affected by this passing. So I would like to see Mark Zuckerberg and more people that own these social media platforms to stand up for the people that are using them.
And so here's another thing to go with. So like YouTube, which claims and promises that its trending page is nothing but algorithmically generated content and it has no human intervention. Last I checked, I think their top two trending were on net neutrality. So, and I would even say I don't think for the most part I don't think it's solidarity. I think with like people it's solidarity. I think it's more of like a standalone complex where that everyone just happens to have the same objective, and without really coordinating with each other, everyone's trying to do the same thing. Because this is just a misstep. Verizon's gonna regret this. I don't think that I don't see how they could win in the long run. They've unleashed a flood that it's too strong for them to protect themselves against. They're just not big enough companies.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens. So I know there are already senators and representatives that are fighting this, and I know Bernie Sanders is one of them as well.
Of course, yeah.
So again, I don't see how this is going to be completed all the way through. I think a lot of people, there have already been a lot of people that have voiced their concern and shown up even on the street, in court, so we'll see. It's incredible how 3 people decided the future of the internet, even though 83% of the country was in opposition.
Well, they haven't decided it yet. They just got the ball rolling.
Right.
And now some adult's going to come and pick up that ball and tell them to stop playing with it. And again, that adult can come in multiple forms, but yeah, in the end, I didn't expect the level of reaction that's happening right now when we were covering this. I'm optimistic. There's very few times where the government does something like this, and I'm like, yeah, that's not going to work.
Well, it's incredibly dangerous to present something like this that would definitely limit our access to educating ourselves, the freedom to have access to knowledge. And this could very much affect HardLensMedia or any growing independent media, journalists. This could silence a lot of people. Yeah. The traffic could be directed towards more biased news, more mainstream, especially the corporations that would be benefiting from this repeal. So there's a lot to consider, but we've already seen so much in Chicago, so many independent medias being silenced, being shut down. So having that access to education, it's essential.
Yeah, this is a lot like, if I can give a metaphor, this is like somehow a private company owns all the interstate highways that are in Illinois. I know that wouldn't make any sense, but let's just say they do. And every mile they put a $5 toll down. No one's going to use the highway.
Yeah.
And then what are they going to do? They're going to unite every truck driver, every car driver, everyone that transports stuff, everyone that does shipping. The cities are going to be losing. That's kind of the situation. They've dug themselves in a corner that they're causing everyone but themselves to risk losing enormous amounts of money. And there's just too many. They've just made too much opposition. There's no way the ISPs have the power to stop Congress, 83% of the people, all the content providers and relevant providers. Again, Amazon makes most of their money through their website creation and the ability to move financing. Google makes a huge amount of money through domains. Mm-hmm. They just put everyone against them. I don't know why they didn't see this coming. This was a pretty obvious outcome.
There's also another factor. And I don't know how much of a role they're going to play, but Anonymous themselves are, they've used social media and the internet for a very long time, especially, bringing about issues of corruption and people abusing their power. And they definitely, I'd be surprised if they don't have Ajit Pai in their little sector of, hey, you messed up.
Pai doesn't matter. He's just
I know he
an
doesn't,
employee.
but he is the
he's the face.
He's the face of it now,
face.
whether he likes it or not. And even the fact that, yes, I do agree with you, he is an employee. He's the one who's been leading this charge the most.
He's definitely the face of it.
And now he has to live up to it, and that's his problem. And the fact that he was arrogant enough to even make a video talking about how net neutrality, how removing net neutrality won't change a thing.
You dumb plebeians, be quiet. It's fine. Just give us your money.
Right. Well, see, the thing is, people aren't going to aren't going to take that, and that's going to be a huge political issue during the 2018 primaries and general election, because people are going to want to know about their elected officials, be they independents, Democrats, or Republicans. Are you for net neutrality? Because I don't hear the Germans or the Canadians or anybody else really talking about getting rid of net neutrality, because you want to know what happened to their elected officials? They'd be kicked out just like that.
And again, look at New Zealand, where there isn't net neutrality. Everything costs more. If you want to go on Facebook, actually, if you look up, it's really fun. If you want to look up, we're about to go on break. If you want to look up during the break, what it's like to buy an internet package in New Zealand, it's just like buying a television package. Only you don't get access. It's just like super restricted internet that costs a ton more. Here, $10 for Facebook, $10 for Twitter.
That doesn't sound like freedom to me at all.
Yeah, and if you want to get YouTube, it's this much. If you want to get HD, it's a little bit more.
Right.
No one's going to go for this. There's just too much against the ISPs. And again, I think that this can all be fixed if when the 1996 Telecommunications Act happened, if they didn't pocket the money and actually built the fiber network that they promised they would. All of this would be gone. Again, this comes back to their argument is we have to do this because our lines are terrible because we haven't updated them in 50 years, even though we've been paid to update them.
But they know what they're doing, Daniel.
They know what they're doing, yeah, of course. And so again, this is happening because they're both lazy. They don't want to spend money on investment,
right,
and then they want to profit off of that entire process not working out.
All right. Well, that's a very good note to end it on. I think you have the final word, Daniel. To all our listeners and people watching us on our live stream, we are going to go on to our break, but we'll be back very shortly. And if you want to help out HardLensMedia, check out our Patreon page, and there you'll see how you can help us build this independent media network here in Chicago, and you can be part of a change. Peace, everyone. See you soon.
You're watching HardLensMedia.